Hello and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs, and today I'm back with a new card to show you. Let's jump right in. So I am going to have my cardstock cut down before I even start. I have a tendency to do that just because I find it easier. And this is a piece of Canson cold press watercolor cardstock, and I'm going to put it right into my MISTI, and we're going to heat emboss this image because I want to add some Nuvo shimmer powders on top. So I am going to prep my cardstock with an anti-static powder bag, and quite a bit. If you guys have seen some of my other videos where I kind of show how much I use, just because I live in such a dry area. So it looks like I used a lot, and it's fair because I kind of did. Also, this is cold pressed watercolor cardstock, so it's quite textured. So to get a good impression, I added quite a bit, and then I'm going to ink it up twice. Now you can see that I didn't clean my stamp great. I tried, but I do find that there's always a little bit of residual ink kind of in the crevices of a stamp, especially one this wordy. Like there's quite a few crevices in all the little letters. So I didn't clean it as well as I thought I had, but that's okay because I'm going to white heat emboss it, so it doesn't really matter. So the stamps are from Simon Says Stamps Big Birthday Greetings. This is by far one of my favorite stamp sets for birthday cards. There's a lot of great stuff in it for quick and simple birthday cards, and I think that's lovely when you need something kind of fast. So I've stamped it out. I'm going to heat emboss it now with Alabaster white embossing powder. And I know it's kind of hard to see here what I'm doing, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of out of the frame there a little bit. It's white on white, so you don't see it well as I heat emboss it anyways, but I am kind of trying to show you how it looks there, but it's pretty hard to see. You just want your embossing powder to be smooth and melted. So I have 3 Nuvo shimmer powders here. I have Cherry Bomb, Solar Flare, and Blue Blitz. And you really want to, you can kind of see that I'm tapping my nail on the back of the bottle. By all means, do not squeeze this. You will have powder everywhere. And the color, you won't even be able to see what colors you have because it would just be a huge mess. So, I mean, these little bottles hold so much powder in them, and you use so little to do a card that you're going to be really careful how much you put out. And I did tape my watercolor piece down to a hardboard here just to kind of keep it straight. And I was planning on adding a bit of a border. I'm going to trim it down a little bit later because I don't like kind of the border look I got, but I still think it looked really neat. So I'm just going to add some water with my distress sprayer, and then I brought my finger in to kind of just smooth some out. The colors were a bit pooling. And then I brought in my MISTI again, and I take a different stamp from the same stamp set, and I'm going to ink it up with 3 oxide colors. So here I have Squeezed Lemonade, then I'm going to go in with Picked Raspberry, and then Mermaid Lagoon. So it's just kind of mimicking that same yellow, pink, blue that I have on the front of the card. Generally, I don't do the inside of my cards. Usually I forget, to be honest with you, or I'm not sure who I'm sending it to, so I like to add that later. But because this is a bit of a simpler and quicker to put together card, I thought it'd be kind of fun to add another sentiment inside with some oxide inks because they stamp stunningly. So I just kind of did the 3 colors. I blotted off with a piece of paper towel where the colors would merge and then stamped them down. So I think that looked pretty good. So here you can see my piece has dried. This was set off to the side while I did the other stamping, and I just brought in a clean piece of paper towel, and I'm just cleaning off any paint or shimmer powder that's sitting on top of my white embossing. So sadly, this didn't stand out as much as I had hoped that it would from the background. So I'm going to show you how I chose to correct that. See here, do you see how the it's not really quite the border I was hoping for, so I am going to trim it down. Originally, I had this as I did my A2 sized card base, and then I have a black mat which is 1/8 of an inch smaller than my card base, and then this was 1/8 of an inch smaller than my black mat. However, I'm going to take off 1/8 of an inch, making it 1/4 smaller. So there's just going to be a slightly bigger black mat all the way around, and I don't mind that look. I tend towards 1/8 of an inch because I like the really skinny border, but it doesn't really matter. So I brought in an N2 Copic. This is a neutral gray, a quite light one. And I'm going to put like a drop shadow on one side of each of the letters. This is going to help it stand out from the background better. Now, I don't know if you can tell right now, especially in the yellow as I'm kind of doing this, but when I hold it up at the end, I hope that you can kind of see how the drop shadow added enough definition to the letters that they stood out a bit better from the background. I love how the background looks, and I'll hold it up at the end so you can kind of see that shimmer in there as well. But I love the background, but sadly the white heat embossing was a bit clashing with the colors in the background, and it wasn't as front and center as I had meant it to be. But I still think that this is a super fun card. It would be really easy to recreate a bunch. You could kind of do it assembly line style if you really needed a quick birthday card to kind of put together. This step is adding some work, but I think that it looked really neat in the end, so you'll have to let me know what you guys think. So I am just going to add in that kind of a drop shadow effect to add a little bit of more definition between the letters and the background, and then we're going to move on from there. This is a pretty simple card. It came together pretty quick. That's why I think this stamp set is a great one to have in your collection for birthday cards, because it's got so many wonderful sentiments that really lend themselves to quick cards that you can kind of put together. And then here you can kind of see a bit better where I'm kind of putting that drop shadow on the letters, kind of to the left side. I have a tendency towards the left side. You could do the right side. You could outline the whole letter if you wanted to. This is just what I opted to do to kind of try to create a bit of a more dimension from the letters. And here I'm going to hold it up so you can kind of see that dimension. Hopefully you can kind of tell. And then I'm going to bring in my favorite Nuvo Deluxe glue, and I'm just going to glue down my layers. So here you're going to see that the black mat has a bit more of a border than I generally have, but that's only because instead of an 1/8 of an inch smaller, it's now 1/4 of an inch smaller. So, I mean, it's not a huge difference, but generally my cards have very small mats to them, and this is a bit bigger. But I still think it looks quite stunning, so I was good with it. And you can see I'm kind of trying to make sure that my cardstock is flat. It did warp a tiny bit because of all the water I added, but not enough to really get bothered by it. Then I double check to make sure that I'm going to put this on the right side of my card base. Ask me how I needed to check that. I've done that before, where you go to stick your card down, or your panel down your card base, and you stick it on the wrong side, and then your sentiment inside looks kind of funny. Maybe that's why I stopped putting sentiments on the inside of my card bases. Oh boy. And then of course I couldn't resist adding a little bit of bling. So I've got 5 crystals here. They are from Studio Katia, I believe. Yeah, Studio Katia sparkling crystals, and everything I use will be linked and listed down below if you're ever curious about something specific I've used. And feel free to ask me questions if you're ever interested or want to know anything. I'm more than happy to respond, and I answer any questions anybody has that they want to ask. So here I'm going to hold it up in the light. You can't see the glitter as good in the background as I had hoped you would, but these are so beautiful. The shimmer in those Nuvo shimmer powders are just stunning. In person, they're really, really pretty. So that is the card I have for you guys this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you again soon. Leave me a comment, leave me a like, and I'd love if you'd consider subscribing. I'll see you again soon, guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.